Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and we continue with David King Mashiach. This one's called Strive to be a Man. King David was very careful when toiling in Torah and fulfilling the commandments, and all this was done for the sake of heaven, from start to finish. Of this, he says in Psalms 19. We're going to start reading from verse 8. The Torah, Torah Hashem, Torah is instruction. Like we said, it's not law, it is Torah from Hora'ah, to instruct. How do we get through this world? Torah, instructions. The Torah of the Lord is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of the Lord is faithful, making the simple one wise. The orders of the Lord are upright, causing the heart to rejoice. The commandment of the Lord is clear, enlightening the eyes. Oh, you see what we're going over here is touching on every part of our physical, spiritual, and emotional beings. The fear of the Lord is pure, existing forever. The judgments of the Lord are true, altogether just. They are to be desired more than gold, yea, more than much fine gold. Not the best translation. And are sweeter than honey and drippings of honeycombs. Now listen. Also your servant, David, was careful with them. For in observing them, there is great reward. Also, terrible translation, but we'll get into that. Just listen to the Hebrew. Gam avdecha nizhar bahem, beshamram ekev rav. Remember that? We'll get back to it. So we've said this many times, both here and within our group, especially to those who have just rediscovered their Judaism. Don't worry about everything that you're doing. Don't worry about doing everything all at once right now. That should not be your concern. Just make sure to focus on the things that you are doing, because that is good practice. Focus on what you are doing. Focus on what you know. Slowly but surely you can pick up, but you need to build a foundation for yourself. If you do every mitzvah you know, with the proper intent and establish that for yourself, that is the way you do things, said David. Then, as you slowly but surely take one more mitzvah, more and more commands under your belt, as it is your responsibility, right? You don't just stick with, oh, I'm good at these. You got to do everything. But this is how you actually make sure to do it. It's your responsibility to do everything. You will perform them on a much higher level than your average Jew. Like we said, it's never about quantity, because we must perform them all. So you can't show off, say, look how many mitzvot. That's not like that. Nor is it exclusively about quality. Because you could be a really not good person, but you could do quality mitzvot. Okay, hey, it's Sukkot now. I'm going to build a beautiful sukkah and buy the best lulav and etrog, and yay, look at me. No one cares. Like, no one cares. Okay, and a lot of people do this. But rather, it is about the refinement of the person that you are. That will assist you in reaching high quality performance. You rectify yourself. Case in point, a lazy person will do all things lazily, and a zealous person will do all things with zeal, right? And if a person who is hyper-focused on the reverential fear of the Lord will perform every command on an extremely high level, as well as any other task that they do, because this is who they are, right? We all know those people that they do not compromise. I'm not one of them, okay? I'm not holding myself I'm holding myself accountable, yes, but I know who I am and I know what I'm striving to be. I am nobody's David, but we all strive to be. But we also know those people that they compromise on nothing. And it's so annoying sometimes because you know that they're right, so you can't argue with them because you know that they're right, right? Okay, so at least we got some people walking amongst us that we can strive to, to be. If you work on yourself and become a better man, everything you do will be better because you are that source. It comes from you. Rabbi Yaakov Abuchatzera said regarding the last verse we read, also your servant was careful with them, right? Beshamram ekev rav. So like I said, the translation is not good. So here it says, observing them is a great reward. Ekev, here it says that ekev means reward, but it clearly does not. But rather it means for in observing or keeping them, there is much precision. Ekev rav. We will explain. Ekev means because of, right? Vaya ekev tishmun. We'll get into that. Akev also means heel. And this is also the name of Jacob, Israel, Yaakov. Okay, so we have all this in here. This alludes to the digging of the heels, meaning standing firm and focusing with much precision on the commands, on what it is that you do. Another hint towards this can be seen in Psalms 26, 11, and 12. But I walk with sincerity, vani betumi, that's innocently, right? Redeem me and be gracious. My foot stood, heels, right? My foot stood on a straight path. Bemishol is a plain, even ground. I will bless the Lord in assemblies. Meaning, if you walk innocently before God, as lopsided as we all are, regardless of where we are, because the whole world is one big ruckus, right? He will flatten the ground beneath our feet so we can stand steady, just as he did for Israel in the wilderness. They just needed to be with him, trust him, believe in him, right? And then as this was happening, wherever they went, God flattened the desert. The desert. There was not a speck of dust within the camp of Israel. No dust, no sand. In the desert, beneath the clouds of glory. You see, there were no mountains. It didn't matter. Everything was flat land for them. Now, regarding Ekev, Rashi explains this from the verse in Deuteronomy 7:12. V'haya ekev tishme'un, right? Like parashat Ekev. V'haya ekev tishme'un, translated as, and it will be because you will heed these ordinances, or if you heed these ordinances. You see? Specifically, he's speaking of Rashi, speaking of a lighter or smaller mitzvah. The ones we usually pay less attention to because they're likely done more frequently, so we don't even notice. Everybody likes to get big around the holidays. Oh, I'm going to do this, do that. But it's the little ones that count. It's instead of, sometimes, and again, I've talked about this and I'm still trying to do it myself and I fall, but it doesn't make me stop trying. You're thirsty, you pour yourself a drink, and on your way as the glass goes to your lips, you say, that's not a blessing, but I still find myself doing it. These are the small things, okay? Do you understand what you're even saying? Do you understand what this thing is and how it sustains you? Like, take a minute. This is what we're talking about here. The focus on the small things, on the things that you have the opportunity to do every day, all the time. Those are the things that matter. The little things, that's what matters. Like God told David, he prefers one day of his Torah study, just one day of David's Torah study or prayer, than 1,000 bulls offered by his son Solomon in a very public display. Because it is the quality of the man. And again, this is not taking anything away from Solomon. He's one of my personal favorites for a myriad of reasons. But he's not David, you see? And all this, it's those private moments, the ones just between you and your maker that create the foundation of your elevation. No one can take that away from you. God sees, right? It's just like if an injustice has been done to you. You get so upset, so hurt, but God sees, you see? And if you know that God did that, okay, all right, this is another opportunity. So slow and steady wins the race in this case. Be consistent. Focus on what you are doing, every little thing, and do it better every time. And if you trip up, acknowledge that, recognize it, and do better next time. Hopefully you will have more opportunities to do. This dedication, this attention to detail will improve your life exponentially across the board. This is how Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob lived, how Moses lived, how David lived. Chassidim, they were attention to detail, they compromised on nothing. This is the meaning of Psalms 19:12. Also your servant was careful with them, for in observing them, ekev rav. In fact, David was so careful with God's commandments that it was said that he could support the entire world based on his good deeds alone. If David was the only one doing mitzvot in the whole world, that would have been enough to keep the world going on his merit. Now, this is written in Sifri Dvarim, section 26. It says, 2 able providers arose on behalf of Israel, Moses and David, king of Israel. They could have been able to sustain the whole world by their good deeds, by their actions. And they didn't request anything for themselves from the omnipresent unless it was given freely. We'll explain. Now, just as these two who are able to sustain the world by their good deeds, never requesting anything for themselves from the Holy One, blessed be He, unless it was given freely, all the more so for one who, like us, is but 1,000th and 1/10,000th of their disciples, that he should only request what is given freely. Meaning, these two individuals, arguably 2 out of the 3 of the greatest men to have ever lived, right? The bringer of the Torah and King Mashiach, could have easily come to God and asked him for anything based on their deeds alone. Look what I did. I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. Therefore, I'm asking you to give me based on what I did, right? They actually had merit to do so. And yet, they did not rely on their own deeds. That's not why they came to God. Rather, on the loving kindness of God, hence given freely. Freely, that is loving kindness. That means, I'm not giving this to you because you earned it, though they did. But that's not why I want it. I'm giving this to you because I love you and I want to give this to you. And that's the only way they would accept anything from God. That's how God works. How much more so us or anyone who is not them or in their category or in their sphere, whose deeds are a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of their students. If we have any deeds at all, come to God and ask him for anything based on our deeds or personal merit. It would be better if we would not embarrass ourselves in this case, okay? We should have the merit, no joke, to lick the dust off their shoes. Mamash. This is another lesson in humility and reality. And this can only be achieved through reverence, yirah. Those who are disconnected from reality, the real reality, Torah, God's reality, God's world, those who are disconnected have massive egos. Now, I'm not speaking of the perceived reality, like we said, I'm speaking of God's reality through the eyes of the Torah, which should put everything into perspective here. This section reminds me of, and accentuates a specific prayer that we say every morning. It's just so beautiful. After the morning blessings and before the portion of the incense. Listen to these words and try our best to live by them, as this is a most beautiful prayer. Okay. This is how it goes. Forever, a man must revere heaven privately as he does publicly, and always confess truth and speak truth in his heart. And when he wakes, he says, Master of all the worlds and Lord of all the lords. Not on our own righteousness do we come and cast our supplications and plead before you, but rather we do so on your great mercies. Lord, hear, Lord, forgive, Lord, listen, and reply, do not delay. For your sake, my Lord, for your name is called over your city and your people. What are we? What are our lives? What is our piety? What is our righteousness? What is our strength? What is our might? What can we possibly say before you, O Lord our God and the God of our forefathers? For all the mighty men are as nothing before you, and the men of renown are as if they never were. And the wise are as if without knowledge, and those with understanding are as if without a mind. For all our deeds are chaos, and the days of our lives are vanity before you. And man is no better than the beast, for all is vanity, except for the purity of the soul alone, and she will give an account in judgment before your throne of glory. And all the nations are like nothing before you, as said in Isaiah 40, verse 15. Behold, the nations are like a drop from a bucket, and like dust on a balance are they counted. Behold, the islands are like the fine dust that blows away. But we are your people, the sons of your covenant, the sons of Abraham who loved you, to whom you swore on Mount Moriah, the seed of Isaac who bound himself to you and was bound upon the altar, the congregation of Jacob, your firstborn son, Exodus 4:22, who from the love that you loved him and from the joy that you derived from him, you called his name Israel and Yeshurun. Therefore, we must give thanks to you and honor you and glorify you and elevate you and give song and praise and gratitude to your great name. And we must sing songs before you every day, always. Praised are we. How good is our lot, and how pleasant is our fate, and how calmly is our inheritance. Praised are we when we rise in the morning and the evenings in synagogues and houses of study, and unify your name every day, always, when we say twice with love, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Right? Okay, so that, can you feel that? You feel that? That means something. That's some perspective for you. Man, okay, let's continue. I believe this prayer is a proper explanation for the mindset of Moses and David. Oh, man. We might have this brief understanding from reading this, right? While we read it. But for them, it wasn't just a part of their consciousness. It was who they are. And because of that understanding, they could have carried the world. But it gets better. Because there are no words that can adequately describe the merit of King David and God's desire for him. After God sent Nathan to tell David that it is not he who will build him a house, but his son. We already discussed in previous teachings, right? But I highly recommend again that you read 2 Samuel chapter 7 for yourselves. We discussed the last class. Please read this, okay? So you understand what we're talking about here. Because there you will see God's eternal promise to David and his house. And they are magnificent. In Tana de Belial Rabbah, chapter 18, it says the following. And the king David went in and sat before the Lord. And he said, Who am I, O Lord God, and what is my house that you have brought me thus far? That's humility. This is verse 18 from chapter 7. After all the promises of God, this is what David says. To what is this likened to? To a king who had a servant that he loved with a perfect love. And every single day the king would bring the servant before him. And the king would honor him and glorify him before all his other servants. The servant then said to the king, saying, My lord king, what have I done more so than any of your other servants? What pleasantness of the spirit have you derived from me more so than your other servants, that you honor and glorify me before the rest? As said in the verse 18, and the king David, Vayavo HaMelech David, went in and sat before the Lord. And he said, Who am I, O Lord God? What is my house that you have brought me thus far? In Hebrew it is Ad Halom. Umi beiti keviatani ad halom. The words ad halom thus far have been mentioned here just as they have been regarding King Saul. We have King David, now we're going to see King Saul. 1 Samuel 14:38. And Saul said, "Draw near here. Vayomer Shaul geshu halom." Okay? All you chiefs of the people, and know and see wherein was this sin today. And it also says in Exodus 3:5 regarding Moses, Melech beyushurun. And he said, "Do not draw near here. Vayomer al tikrav halom." Take your shoes off your feet, because the place upon which you stand is holy soil. So what language is this? Halom. This is the language of malchut, royalty, kingship, and governance. In all the places mentioned, right? With King Saul, with King David, even with Moshe Rabbeinu, who was, like we said, he was the first king. You should know that this is true, as David's deeds were found so pleasing in the sight of God, that he's going to seat him at the right hand of the Shekhinah, as said in, wait for it, Psalms 110:1. Of David is Psalms, the word of Yud-K Vav-K to Adoni. Wait for my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool at your feet. For those of you lid flippers, yes, regarding this psalm, please check out the teaching titled Praised is the Man. Okay. A psalm of David, the word of the supernal name, Yud-K Vav-K, to its connection to the lower realms, Adoni, Aleph Dalet Nun Yud, also Adonai, also known as the Shekhinah. David, sit to my right, the side of mercy, until I make your enemies a footstool at your feet. We're going to take another turn right now to Sikta Zutara, Ecclesiastes chapter 2, for further confirmation of David's merit. And it says, "The memory of the wise will never dwell with the memory of the fool. The merit of Abraham, our father, stands forever, but Nimrod has been destroyed and is gone. The merit of Jacob as well, but Esav has no memory." In other words, now he's here, but when that cutoff point, Esav who? "The Torah of Moses exists forever, and Pharaoh has gone into eternal shame, as will be those who say it's been done away with." You dig? The merit of David is forever present, and Achitophel, his memory is gone. Achitophel was after David the whole time. In the end, yeah. So we've gone through many examples of how God loves and adores David and his house, but we need to ask why or how. What is the big deal over here? How? Why? Give me the tachlis. How do I get closer to this standing? From the Vilna Gaon's commentary on Sifra Ditzniuta, the Book of Humility, which is a certain section within the Zohar, he says, so this is like hidden within hidden. David was born at a time when his natural inclination was opposed to the good inclination. What does this mean? It means he started off with an extreme deficiency in the opposite direction. His evil inclination was his neutral state. Therefore, anything good he did, he had to work infinitely harder in order to do it. In Genesis 25:25, it says of the birth of Esav, and the first one emerged ruddy. Vayetze harishon admoni. And in the description that we get the first time of King David, in 1 Samuel 16:12, it says, Vaishlach vayavi'eu vehu admoni. And he sent and brought him, and he was ruddy. Obviously with beautiful eyes and handsome appearance, right? Okay. How could one of the worst and most evil men in the history of the world, and one of the best men in the history of the world, and holiest men in the history of the world, have the same description according to the Torah? As we know, everything means something. The long and the short of it is this. Red. This is the shade and color of extreme judgment, of blood and anger and viciousness. And while both David and Esav had the same strong, evil inclination, Esav gave himself over to it completely, while David subdued it completely. Esav was a vicious killer, but so was David. The difference is Esau killed for personal gain, bloodlust, while David did so on the instructions of God. That's why every war he waged, he always sought God's counsel and approval beforehand. Spilling blood is no small thing. You can't just do it freely, right? It's in the Ten Commandments, you shall not commit murder. In all the other Bibles, it says, thou shalt not kill, but that is a gross mistranslation. And make no mistake, David did in fact go to war, and he did kill his enemies, God's enemies, with great zeal, but he wasn't controlled by bloodlust. What controlled him, that driving force, was the lust to fulfill God's commands. As a result, David could not build a temple, and we could read as much in 1 Chronicles 22. And he called Solomon his son, and commanded him to build a house for the Lord God of Israel. And David said to Solomon, my son, as for me, it was in my heart to build a house in the name of the Lord my God. But the word of the Lord was upon me, saying, you have shed much blood, and you have waged great wars. You shall not build a house in my name, because you have shed much blood to the ground before me. As we discussed in previous classes, God did not allow David to build a temple. Why? Because he knew that the temple would be destroyed. It was destined. Both temples were already destined to be destroyed. And God did not want to destroy anything that David built. But the point is, this is the secret of David's ascension. As he had a great evil inclination, so great that as we read from the Zohar, it was the polar opposite of his good inclination, the other end of the pendulum. And so to come back from such a deficiency, never letting up, fighting every moment of every day, his entire life, that'll take you places. And he also told his secret to his son Solomon upon his deathbed. In 1 Kings 2:2, which incidentally is one of my favorite sayings. So it starts with, and the days of David drew near that he should die, and he charged Solomon his son, saying, now listen, I go the way of all the earth, and you shall be strong and be a man. Vechazakta ve'aita leish. In fact, if you've ever taken the time to look at the opening and the closing of the series, I put out these videos, there's a song in the beginning, there's also an ending part with other visuals, right? So I put my favorite David verses over there within, putting the graphic of the perceived, the relevant verse. So if you look closer before the end, after the teachings, you'll see David commanding 12-year-old Solomon, and this verse, I go the way of all the earth, and you shall be strong and be a man, is on the screen over there. But anyway, just take a look at it. We all have to be strong because we have an inclination to overcome. And as we know, that inclination never rests, never takes breaks, and it does not relent. The very purpose of its existence is for our benefit, in order to exercise free will, in order to overcome something. How important are these words that King David instructed his son Solomon upon his deathbed? This is part of the foundation of what it means to be a Jew. In Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers, or Mishnah Avot 2:5, says the following. He, Rabban Gamliel, used to say, a brute is not sin-fearing. You see these people walking around, they have no God. Nor is an ignorant person pious, because they just don't know enough. Nor can a timid person learn. Lo habayshan lamed. If you're in a class or wherever you don't ask questions about how to be better, you will never know anything. Nor can an impatient person teach, because most likely the teacher knows more than the student. And if there's no patience for the student, then they shouldn't be teaching. Nor will someone who engages too much in business become wise, because true wisdom you don't get from wheeling and dealing. And in a place where there are no men, strive to be a man. There's this brilliant quote in a movie called The Weatherman with Michael Caine and Nick Cage. Now, I didn't see the movie, but I did see the clip, and this quote was coming up while I was, in the period that I was writing this. You got to listen because it sums up beautifully everything and everyone can identify. This is not a religious thing. This is a way of life thing. And this is built into the Jewish psyche, ideally, yes? Michael Caine said, to who his son is, Nicolas Cage, he said, to get anything of value, you have to sacrifice. True statement, across the board, in any field, in anything? Yes. Okay. Do you know that the harder thing to do and the right thing to do are usually the same thing? Can we agree on that? Okay. Nothing that has meaning is easy. Easy doesn't enter into grown-up life. Just like easy doesn't enter into a Jew's life. Hence, strive to be a man. Put your pants on, your big boy pants on. Do you think Abraham had it easy for God to choose him as the father of Israel? You think Jacob had it easy for him to be given God's name? You think Joseph had it easy before becoming king of the world? You think Moses had it easy to merit to receive the blueprints of creation and teach it to Israel? You think David had it easy in order for God to call him a man after his own heart? You think making Aliyah is easy? You think any kind of conversion to Judaism, properly of course, is easy? You think living a Torah lifestyle, even in Israel, is easy? Think again. Easy has nothing to do with it. Nothing that has meaning is easy. Easy doesn't enter into grown-up life. It's time to grow up, be strong, and be a man. The Zohar continues and says regarding David, because he struggled as he did, he merited to be Mashiach Hashem, the Lord's anointed. You see, it's about changing our perspective and our perception of the world. The vast majority of this world would like everything to be easy and not struggle, so that everything should just go smoothly. Really, people will always choose the path of least resistance. Unfortunately, it's a very common thing. I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for my wife, I'd probably be doing it too. So credit where credit is due. That's also the difference between peace and quiet. They are not the same thing. Everything that happened over here, that's because they preferred quiet over peace, because there is no peace, so we'll take quiet. One does not mean the other. And those same people who don't want to work for anything, who want people to tell them what to do and how to live so they don't have to take responsibility or think for themselves, so they don't have to take accountability for their own actions. This goes across the board in the world, from the socialists and communists taking over the states to the Jews who won't lift a finger without the rabbis say so. Have you ever met anyone, regardless of status, tax bracket, and what have you, that has not struggled throughout their lives? Does something like this exist? More money, more problems, right? We know the saying. And usually people who want more money are people who never had money. There's always problems everywhere. The grass is always greener is the world's perspective. But we need to see things differently. We have to. It's the only way we're going to get through what's about to hit. When we go through hard times, because we do, because it's inevitable. When we are faced with challenges, because we do, because it's inevitable, especially with hard decisions that will make us compromise who we are every day, there will be no shortage of excuses as to avoid the hard choice, the right choice. People will lie to themselves to sleep at night for the way they live and the choices that they've made. All this so they don't have to take responsibility. And some people have done some things and still make choices instead of doing tshuva. All you got to do is do tshuva, but no, this is your ego. That means you're not living in God's world. You're living in your own world. Because once they do, right? Once they take responsibility, that means that a rectification needs to take place. And that means that they will have to face the fact that they compromised themselves and have been lying to themselves to try and sleep at night or get through the day or whatever. But the truth is always there. Rabbeinu Bachye, in the introduction to the book Chovat HaLevavot, Duties of the Heart, you can actually get that in English. I highly recommend it. He says this. This is perfect. I already wrote this class, but then I read this. I'm like, this goes here. I realized further that man has a powerful drive to obtain what is the height of evil. This, mind you, is not what you think is evil. With your compromised worldly understanding, I speak across the board to everybody, Jew, non-Jew. If your understanding, compromised for sure, right? But what God clearly said is good and evil, okay? He tends to be negligent in the pursuit of kindness, lacks in seeking good. You have to look for it. You don't just wait till it comes to you. You got to make it happen. He is drawn to frivolity and amusement. This world is tough, yeah? And to get out, of our minds for a minute, to get things out, to relax, to kick back. This is where our inclination might take us, right? Amusement. If a vision of lust appears to him and beckons him, lust not only, physically, but for any, I want to do that, I want to go here, I want to do there, and so on and so forth. Things that fall into the category of not good, all right? If a vision of lust appears to him and beckons him, and he knows, he fabricates a false rationale to follow it. He then brings supports for his claims in order to strengthen its case and patch up its inconsistent reasoning, all to justify his behavior. Now, mind you, this was written 1,000 years ago, where there was less temptation, less distractions, and way less opportunity towards frivolousness. Okay? And still, this is what was going on back then. Do you understand what kind of trouble we're in today? If, however, the light of truth appears to him and beckons him, he fabricates untruths to avoid following it. Could be a friend being like, bro, what are you doing, man? You don't understand this. We've all seen this. We've all heard these excuses. He fabricates untruths to avoid following it. He argues against it, distorts its case, and contradicts its claims in order to tear apart its consistent reasoning and part ways with it. Even if you know it's the right thing, but by saying it's the right thing, that means you're admitting that you're wrong and you have to do tshuva. Every man has an enemy within him. Unless he has help from God, an ever-present corrective guide for his soul and self-mastery to bind it with the bridle of service, control it with the reins of virtue, and strike it with the rod of discipline, so that when the performance of some good act occurs to him, when you have that opportunity, he will not delay. And if his heart entices him to do otherwise, he will berate it and overcome it. No, all the reasons why not to do the right thing, no shortage, none. But what are you going to do? Meaning, also, this last sentence, without God, there is no hope for us. I do not trust the morality of the godless because they are godless. Good people? What? Who's to say who is good? God does. But if they don't believe in God, that's a problem. All this can be summed up with David's words to Solomon. You shall be strong and be a man. This tells us that we will face battles. That's part of life. Yeah, life is not meant to be easy. And if you want anything meaningful, you need to earn it. You need to fight for it. You need to claim it. That is why even learning Torah, the greatest gift from God, can only be acquired through torment, as is the land of Israel, as is the world to come. You know, things that are worth getting. Most of these battles will be fought privately, when there's no one to hold you accountable except for yourself. There will be no one to push you except for you. And will show you and God how badly you really want it when it's just you and God. All night and every night, the evil inclination would come to David saying, and by the way, this is how Satan comes to you, okay? In a gentle and sweet tone with the words that make perfect sense. And every word might be true, but it misses the plot entirely. Here, what are you doing? You're the most powerful and respected king in the world. I mean, you vanquished all your enemies. Your people love you. They're all Torah scholars and they adhere to God's commandments. Why are you staying up at night? This is not the way of kings. David, you have earned your sleep. This is no doubt to anyone you're going to get up like the lion that you are before the sun rises and go pray to God. But you need your sleep, man. Can't you feel how exhausted your body is? How heavy your eyelids are? How blurry your vision has become? Why? Why are you doing this to yourself? You've proven yourself above and beyond that you are a man of God, the Lord's anointed. Sleep, rest. God loves you. He knows your heart. He knows your heart. Yeah, we've all heard those excuses that God knows my heart. I'm just because he knows my heart. Okay, this is how it comes to you. It's soft, it's gentle, it's always on your side. It understands your pain, it sympathizes with you, and then it gives you permission. Or rather, you give you permission. My friends, if you haven't noticed, we shifted gears. And things are rapidly speeding up even more than they were before. Beware of the compromise. We are all being tested right now. The only way through this, the only way, is to take and internalize David's counsel. Be strong and be a man. And that's our class. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the week and have a Shabbat Shalom.